Hey there and welcome. We're so glad you're here for this devotional explainer brought to you by the UNFIJ in Jesus team. Today, we're diving into an incredibly raw and powerful story of rescue, a journey from the absolute lowest of lows to a place of pure, uncontainable joy. I want you to think about something for a second. Have you ever been in a situation that felt so bleak, so final, that you couldn't see a way out? A moment of sickness or failure or just overwhelming grief that felt like a deep, dark pit you could never escape from? If that feeling is even a little bit familiar, well, you're in good company. We're about to walk through King David's personal story in Psalm 30. And trust me, it's more than just an old song. It's a roadmap that shows exactly how God can lead us from the bottom of a crisis to a place of incredible joy. Let's dive in. All right, so to really get the psalm, we need a little bit of backstory. The title itself calls it a song for the dedication of the house of David. Now, that could mean his actual palace, but a lot of people think it's about something way deeper. David rededicating his entire life to God after a brush with death, maybe even a plague he brought on himself through pride. So notice how David starts this. He doesn't begin with the crisis. He starts with the praise after the crisis. He says, I will extol thee, O Lord, which basically means I'm going to lift you up as high as I possibly can. And why? For thou has lifted me up. It's this incredible picture of God reaching down into a pit and pulling him out. God didn't just save him. He shut the mouths of his enemies who were ready to celebrate his downfall. But before we get to all that incredible praise, there was a moment of pure, unfiltered desperation. David takes us all the way back to his lowest point to show us exactly where his journey back to joy actually began. So, what was David's first move when everything fell apart? Did he stay silent? Did he just give in to despair? Nope. He cried unto God. You can just feel the urgency in those words. This wasn't some quiet, polite prayer. This was a desperate shout for help. And the result? It was immediate. Thou hast healed me. That desperate cry was met with God's healing power. And listen to the language he uses here. It shows just how dire this was. He says God brought his soul up from the grave. The Hebrew word is Sheol, which literally means the realm of the dead. In his mind, he was already gone. This wasn't just a close call. This was a flat-out miracle, a rescue from the very brink of death. It was a resurrection of his hope. Now, as David's story unfolds, he shares one of the most beautiful, most anchoring promises you'll find in all of Scripture. Seriously, this is a profound truth for anyone who feels like they're stuck in a long, dark night. Right here in Psalm 30, verse 5, David draws a line in the sand between what's temporary and what's permanent. He writes, For his anger endureth but a moment. In his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Think about that. God's discipline, it's just for a moment. The weeping, it's confined to the night. But his favor, that's not temporary. That is life itself. And joy, it's as certain as the sun coming up. It's not just a possibility, my friends. It's a promise. And now, David gets brutally honest. He reveals the hard lesson he had to learn, the thing that probably got him into this mess in the first place. He confesses a moment of, dangerous pride. During a time when everything was going great, in my prosperity, David admits he started to think his stability came from his own power. He said to himself, I shall never be moved. Isn't that such an easy trap to fall into? When things are good, it's so tempting to forget where our true security comes from. But David learned his lesson fast. In the very next verse, he says, Lord, by thy favor thou hast made my mountain to stand strong. That strong mountain, his kingdom, his success, his security, it was all a gift from God. He realized that the second God just hid thy face, he was in trouble. Our real stability doesn't come from what we build. It comes from God's grace. And all of this brings us to the emotional peak of the whole psalm. After this whole journey, the crisis, the crying out, the confession, we see God do something amazing. We get to witness the great reversal. Wow. Just soak in that imagery. God didn't just put a stop to the mourning. He literally transformed it into dancing. He didn't just patch up the sackcloth, that rough, scratchy clothing people wore to show their deep grief. No, he took it off completely. And, as the verse says, girded me with gladness. Our God isn't a God of quick fixes. He's a God of total redemption. So why? Why did God do all this? Verse 12 tells us the purpose. To the end that my glory may sing praise to thee and not be silent. Our deliverance isn't just for us, it has a purpose to turn our entire lives into a song of thanks to the one who rescued us. So, what does all this mean for you and me right here, right now? David's story isn't just a piece of history, it's a practical guide for us whenever we find ourselves in our own pit. Let's just boil it down to 3 simple steps. First, cry out honestly. Don't pretty up your pain. Bring your raw, unfiltered fear straight to God, just like David did. Second, remember. In the middle of that dark night, remember who God is. Cling to that promise that joy is coming. And finally, step 3, share. When God pulls you out, don't keep it to yourself. Let your story become a song that gives him glory and gives other people hope. So I want to leave you with this one question to really reflect on. In your own life, right now, what area of mourning, what sackcloth of grief or despair is just waiting for God's transforming touch to turn it into a dance? Thank you so much for joining us. This devotional explainer was brought to you by the You Need Faith in Jesus team. May you find your own path from the pit to praise.